Shavua Tov, everyone. We began a brand new series on Shabbos afternoon, and since many of you are not here, so I figured we'll do a brief recap after every Shabbos of what we learned in the afternoon. Bichlal, learning Shabbos is always very different than learning during the week. There's something in the air, there's something in the neshama, there's space to breathe in between the words. You're not looking at any screens. When you're learning, you're looking at people. And yesterday was the first time we gathered together on Shabbos afternoon in quite some time. And we gathered in our backyard, and we began learning a wonderful discourse from Rav Avraham Tzvi Kluger regarding Bechira, choice. What is the power of Bechira all about? What is the power of choosing all about? So we noticed something. We stopped and asked a question. And it was a good question to focus on for a while. And we wondered if it meant anything to us when we stopped and paused and noticed that the world that exists right now is a result of God's choice. God wanted this world to exist. More beautiful, more less beautiful, that's already where we get involved. But the fact that this world itself exists is the Bechira of Hashem. What does that do to you? What does that do to me? What does it do to us? When we think about God's choices, does it do anything to us? When a person becomes a Baal Bechira, when a person becomes someone who's in tune with their choices and understands and knows how to execute choice, what happens to him? A number of things came up in Shir. One is that a person senses a more direct concept of Hashgacha Pratis. Another is that a person feels a sense of responsibility since they chose something. And we also came to the notion that Bechira instills within a person confidence to pull through, to keep on going, to follow your choices. Just like the Ribono Shel Olam has followed through with his choice of creating the world and also creating us, Am Yisrael, to be a very special entity. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. But before even getting into that, we noticed that when we focus on what God chose, and we see how much the Ribono Shel Olam not just once upon a time had chosen, but every day when we say HaMechadesh Betuva B'chol Yom Tamid, that God renews creation all the time. Well, if God renews creation, it means that He also renews His choices. So every single day, Hashem chooses the world to be. God chose the opportunity for you and I to learn together. This was God's choice. He chose the possibility for you and I to learn together. And we are utilizing that possibility. And we're entering into God's choice and hopefully making it filled with light. When I stop and think about that, what happens to me? Does that have any hashpa'ah? Does that have any influence on my life? We continued to learn about other choices of God. For instance, Hashem Yisbarach, He chose the seventh day to be Shabbos. He chose that. I didn't choose that. What about my Shabbos and the way that I keep it is connected to God's choosing of Shabbos, as opposed to this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what happens on Shabbos. God also chose Shevet Levi to be the ones to serve, to be the inner group that is into the holiness of the service in the Holy Temple, whether it's the singing of the Levites, the Levim, or whether it's the Avodah, the godly service of the Kohanim. That was God's choice. Korach couldn't deal with that. And that's why in the Parsha it says, Vaya asher Aish asher yivchar Hashem hu HaKadosh. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron were saying to them, guys, listen, we didn't choose this. Our lives are basically what God chose. That's what it is. And the Holy Temple, the Beis HaMikdash, is called Beit HaBechira, the place of choice, God's house of choosing. And we learned that one of the most amazing things that would happen when someone would walk out of the Holy Temple is that they felt chosen and they felt that they can implement and exercise their power of choice with so much more confidence. They walked out of the Beit Bechira feeling mufchar and feeling like yesh lem et Bechira beyadam. They have the choice to choose. And as much as that's something that it's clear to anyone that thinks about free will, Reb Nassan Breslover pointed out that, stop and think about it, it's the greatest pele of creation. It's the greatest wonder of creation, that God created a world, and He put us in this world, and He gave us this similar element through which He created the world, which is the power of choice. He chose to create a beautiful world. So the more that I think about that, the more that I spend time internalizing that fact, what world am I choosing to create today?